Hi, boys and girls. So today we're going to be going on a texture scavenger hunt. And that is going to be our challenge for today. And so let's talk about what that means. Texture. Texture is one of the 7 elements of art, and you can think about it as the building blocks of art or the words in a sentence. And today we're going to be focusing on texture. Other elements of art include line, shape, form, space, color, and value. And today we're going to be focusing on texture. So let's watch this short video explaining what texture is.
Element of texture. Texture is the tactile quality of a surface. Textures can be categorized by their method, function, and character. A texture's method refers to how it's created. This can be actual or implied. Actual textures have qualities that one could physically touch, like real fur or real scales. Implied textures are the illusion of a texture, as created through drawing techniques, or the virtual mapping of a texture using software. The function of a texture can also be important. Textures can be critical to identifying what an object is, and textures can offer a sense of spatial orientation. Lastly, the character of a texture spans the range of tactile descriptions. For example, rough or smooth, hard or soft, glossy or matte, and thousands of other tactile possibilities. These subtle visual cues provided by texture often help a work feel more interesting and more complete. And there you have it, the element of texture.
And so that just goes over exactly what texture is. Texture is the way something feels, whether an artist uses repeating shapes. As you can see in Gustav Klimt's Tree of Life, he used repeated triangles in the dress, repeated spirals in the tree, and the repeated circles within circles and squares to create the illusion of texture. There are 2 types of texture. You have real texture, texture that you can actually feel. So if you touch this cup, what would it feel like? You're right, furry. And then there's implied texture. These are 2 drawings of animals, but you can see if we touched this paper, it would feel flat. But because of the way the artist placed their lines and shapes, it has the illusion, it is implied that there is texture, that the animals are furry. And so today we're going to be going on our very own texture scavenger hunt. So we are going to be walking around our house and outside and looking and looking and looking for so many different types of textures. And here's what you're going to need. You're just going to need some paper. I have computer paper right here. And you're going to need crayons. And the one thing you're going to need is to make these crayons have no paper. So you're going to peel the paper off so that there is no paper on it. And you can see by this picture that we're going to be taking our paper and holding our crayon to the side. We're not going to be using the point like we would if we were drawing. We're going to be holding our crayon to the side and placing our paper over top of our texture and rubbing those different textures to reveal what's underneath, as you can see from this picture. And so today you're going to need your paper, your naked crayons, and some found actual textures. And so let's get started. And then I'm going to show you what we can do once we found all of these textures. So now I have gone all around my house and outside, and I have found so many different textures. I found textures in wood, with leaves on my air conditioner. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was my refrigerator made this really scaly looking texture. So that was one of my favorites. And now we need to talk about what are we going to do with these texture rubbings? So I have all of these different pieces of paper, and I came up with a couple different ideas. And so one thing we can do is we can leave our artwork as it is. Maybe you overlapped your textures on a different piece of paper, and that could actually be artwork on its own. I could cut down my paper, and this could really be an artwork on its own. I could create a border around my paper. I could cut it down to just focus on what I like the most. And another idea I had was coming up with, you could do a study in your sketchbook and write down all the different places you found your different textures. So I found these in leaves outside. I would put leaves in my backyard. I found on my refrigerator. This one was on the wood chest outside. And even my air conditioning unit made this really cool linear pattern. And I could document that in my sketchbook and write and label all of the different textures I found. Another thing we could do with all these different papers is we could create a collage. And on this slide here, you see an artwork by Romeo Bearden, and he is famous for his collages. And you can see all the different textures he included from magazines, colored paper, and even if you look at his pants down here in one of the figures, you can see that those were created by a texture rubbing. And so we could take these papers and draw on top of them or cut them up to create a whole new collage. So you have a couple different choices. You can make the artwork become one of its own, cut it down. You could create a study, or you can create a collage using these different papers. And that's what I'm going to try to do. And so I can't wait to see what you create. Let's have fun creating so many different textures.